Hello and welcome to the Avant Team podcast. I'm your host, Alex Tuckett, and I'm co-hosted today by my lovely friends here over Luca Ferrari.
What's up?
Cyril and Oona Hosea.
Hello.
So to give you a rundown of what this actually is, we are the Pro Academia podcast, and we are going to be talking about various subjects such as book essays that we will be doing. We'll be doing a whole podcast about how we actually study here, a full podcast episode. And we'll also be talking about what kind of things we do in Pro Academy on a day-to-day basis to give you, the viewer, an idea of what Pro Academy actually is. So today's topic is the book 5 Dysfunctions in a Team. And so we're going to start off by talking about what did you guys think about the book? We all listened to it as an audiobook, right? Or did somebody read it?
Audio.
Audio,
also.
Audiobook? Okay. So what did you think? What did you think about the book in total?
Yeah, I really liked it was really interesting to listen to this book, and I've been in a team for 2 years in Switzerland because you already see dysfunctions. You have been in the practice and what they explain in theory, so it's really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I can totally agree on this. It's a great book that has a lot of insights. I think a lot of the explanation of the book are correct, and once you've lived through a dysfunctional team, you can totally relate to the characters in the book.
Yeah, I totally agree with these guys. Like, not only as maybe study-wise or like pro academia, but also you could reflect your own behavior in like normal life situation, as well as like before companies you have worked at that I might done this wrong and your own behavior and other behaviors, like other people's behaviors. Yeah, I think it was a really good book.
Awesome. So you two said that you've kind of lived through the situation this book kind of suggests that happen in a team. Do you mind describing maybe one of those situations that you had over in Switzerland?
Yeah, for me the funniest situation was about the man on his computer during a meeting.
Yeah.
We got this man in our team who was always in the computer during his meeting, and when we say, "Hey man, be with us," and close your computer, he's like, "No, I'm taking notes." And you're like, "Man, I know you're on Google and you're making your email, so don't lie to me and close your computer now."
All right, Cyril, do you have
Absolutely,
another?
I think the most relatable dysfunction was the lack of accountability, where you could see a lot of like kind of antisocial behavior or anti-teamwork behavior, but it's very hard to call them out because you're supposed to be everyone's equal in a team. And so I think the big challenge and what the book addresses, and I think we're going to talk to this in a second, is how to create an environment where you can still ensure accountability without creating a stiff structural hierarchy.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. Oona, would you have any situation, I mean, to give everybody a kind of rundown of our history here. So Cyril and Luca have come all the way from Switzerland over here to Pro Academy on the exchange you're here for 5 months, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 5 months. Me and Oona, on the other hand, we've worked together for about a year and a half now.
Yeah.
The most excruciating year and a half of my life. No, I'm only kidding.
The funniest.
So we studied IB over in Damk. So would you say, we were actually in the same team in IB. Would you have any comments? Could you relate our team to any of the dysfunctions or any of the problems that the book described?
Probably one of them would be, or actually a couple of them. We had a dream team, right? But there was still the lack of trust, I think, that we were missing.
Trust? Okay.
Yeah, in ways that like we didn't build like the whole trust in the start. Like tell us about like we told about ourselves, but there was still something that was missing that people didn't want to bring up, like all the thoughts, which is really important in a team, in my opinion. And well, yeah, we had a lot of meetings that everyone was using. A lot of people were using their phones, which probably you can agree as well.
That was probably one of the biggest problems we had.
So that was marching the British guys. I was like laughing because our team functioned well, but I think there was a couple of things that could have been better as well, and those being like the phones and just using your computer all the time in the meetings. And that's not how it's supposed to be. There were a couple also that I could just reflect on myself, but I'm not going to discuss about it now.
You know-
Maybe later on, different question then.
All right. So just to give a rundown of what the book is actually about, you guys can jump in on this on my description if you want. So it talks about a fictional team in a digital company, and the book talks about how a new manager comes in. It was Catherine.
Yeah,
right?
Catherine.
Catherine, the
yeah.
person who comes in, and she then she's hired to make the team more effective. And now, while she tries to do that, she goes over the methods or the 5 dysfunctions of a team. She kind of goes through this method and goes through it with the team, and they have team building exercises, and eventually they get through it. So that's a kind of rundown. So it's set in a fictional setting, and the story is actually told by a narrator who does the worst British accent I've ever heard in my life. If you listen to this, I'm very sorry, but no, this doesn't work. So do we have a rundown of the characters itself? Do you guys have any notes on it? Because I can't remember all of the character names.
I have actually all the characters in here. Sit down. So Catherine was the new leader, and I think, well, just to say about Catherine, she had 50 years experience or something like that. She had
30 years, I think.
Yeah, 30 years.
30
Sorry,
years.
yeah. She had experience in teaching and then studying business in a little bit elder age, and I think like her methods of doing was like, first everyone was thinking that what is she kind of doing there. She was just like kind of looking what they're doing and what's going to happen next, which is really like everyone was thinking like, is she actually going to succeed? Like what is she doing here? And then there was Jeff, former CEO, co-founder, head of business development. Michelle, then Martin, the British guy.
Martin, the British guy.
Then there was
He talks like this. He's very posh, and he's a right pain in the ass.
Yeah. And to bring back about Jeff, like he was the former CEO of the same company, but yeah. So I think it was good to have him there as well. As an example, it was good to have him as in the team and not just like quit immediately his job in there.
Yeah.
Then the other Jeff, head of sales. Then there was Carlos, who was the nice guy, I think, in the
Yeah,
book.
he was a nice guy. Did all the crappy work.
Yeah, head of customer support. Then was Jan and Nick. And yeah, Jan was the chief financial officer and Nick was the chief operating officer. So those were the characters. And yeah.
Yeah, and immediately when Catherine entered the company, her first big challenge is that she comes from the auto industry and she has to work in a tech company in the Silicon Valley, which is a very closed ecosystem. And so it's really interesting to see how the book highlights the kind of useless but true competition between the different sectors within like in the economy, and how also the book highlights that the fact that the 5 dysfunctions of the team are not dependent on which sector you're in. They're always the same. And I think it does a tremendous job at showing this, and decisively a good book in this manner because you can really feel it being universal.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was examples. Catherine was first there. She was a teacher, and then she was in the automobile industry. And I think, I totally agree with you. It was kind of, I could take points from that and highlight, okay, our team has maybe this, and that. It was very good, and I liked the method how the story was told.
Yeah.
You know, in that sense. So it was kind of, even though it was fictional, it wasn't too fictional, if you know what I mean. It wasn't made out to be something completely unbelievable, but it was something.
It was definitely realistic.
Yeah, it was in a realistic setting, and I really enjoyed that in that sense.
You correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the beginning of the audiobook it said that it has happened and it's a
Oh, right.
real
Okay, it's based
situation.
on a real story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember that.
I don't think so. I think
I can't remember.
Might
He
be that
said
I'm
it was-
completely wrong, but
I listened to
think
this
I remember
audiobook
that.
at like the middle of the night, so most of some of the stuff just kind of went just like that. But anyway, moving on. Luca, would you mind telling us what the 5 dysfunctions of the team actually are? Just list them through, and we can talk through each one of them.
Yeah, we got the first one was the absence of trust.
Yep.
And then the fear of conflict. Then the lack of communication, the avoidance of accountability, and then the last one is the inattention to result.
Okay. So if we go through the first one, so the absence of trust. I mean, Oona, you were talking about how our team in IB1 had kind of issues with trust, or in the sense of well, even though we talked about different things, we didn't maybe bring up all of the things we probably should have. You know, like the problems in the company or opinions or something like that.
Yeah.
So would you like to talk more about that or your experiences with that?
Sure. Like I can talk about the book first. Like it says like about admitting mistakes and concerning and the fear of conflict kind of. And if the team hasn't got no trust, there is no ultimate success. That wasn't the case of our team, but I think there was a fear of conflict as well and admitting mistakes. Yeah, and then like in the first, when he was discussing about the absence of trust, I think it was also discussion about Martin, how he was on the computer, even though that didn't like kind of connect to that, but I think it was an important part of it. Yeah, it's something that I think, for example, if we think about our team, I think now when we did like the learning contract again and we have a lot more trust in the team, I'm confident and I can say basically all the things that are bothering me within a team. So that's why it's important, because it's a fear of conflict. If you don't face conflicts, you won't be able to succeed in a team, in my opinion.
That was it. That was one of the themes that they talked about actually
Yeah.
in the book, and it was a lot resolved around conflict. And it was interesting to see how, or when they were telling the story, how Catherine, the manager, the new manager, actually wanted the team to have conflict situations.
Yeah.
And to me, that was really interesting because personally, I'm a person who kind of avoids conflict. You know what I mean? I like to negotiate. I want to make sure everyone's happy with the situation
Yeah.
and not, provoke someone. Because if somebody has a great idea and you start all of a sudden criticizing it, then you know that there's some tension there, and it's not nice for all parties. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting how she used that and how she said, I actually want this team to have more conflict. Like that was the issue.
Absolutely, and I think it's really well illustrated in the book is that it's not about having conflict, but it's actually about going through conflict.
Yeah.
Because you can have a lot of discussion or tense discussion in a team, but if you don't go through the conflict and end up with a decision, then the problem is the tension point never goes away. It's always staying here and around, and it intoxicates the working relation.
Yeah.
And I think we can definitely relate with Luca in our team in Switzerland. The countless meetings we had about discussing for a particular problem and just think, oh, we'll take the decision next time.
All right. Okay. So you postponed it, kind of.
Always postponing the problem, and I think this courage and this trust that is required to really face conflict and take a decision is truly, and I didn't think of it before, but one of the pillar of teamwork. Because if you're not able to go through when there's a tension point, then you're not able to build. If you're not able to choose the foundation, you can't build the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anything to add to that, Luca? Do you have a specific memory of this kind of situation happening?
Just before we left Switzerland, so it's been 3 semesters that we were all together in our team. We had this discussion like, do we trust everybody in the team?
Okay.
So it means that we are working for more than half a year together.
Yeah.
But there was still this question: do I trust you?
Right.
And we can see that, some people say 100% I trust you, but trust people in life and trust people in business is completely different.
Yeah.
And there is many exercises to build trust, as we have done, as said Oona, during the Mukipaya. So the Mukipaya is our 2 days during we make team building events. And as we open each other's during the Mukipaya, it was really interesting, but this is just the beginning. We'll see that during the semester, things will happen, and we will still having this question in mind: do I really trust them in this situation? And I think there is this exercise they ask and they show in the book, like the personal history exercise, the team effective exercise, and personality and behavior personal profile, that should be used all during the semester to keep working on the trust. Trust is never something that you have, and once you have it, it's okay. You have to work and work again.
Yeah.
And I want to add a take on the book in the form of trust. It's very interesting because the book, usually trust can be understood as predictability,
Mm-hmm.
which in which you know someone enough to know what he's going to do in this or that situation. And the book takes a different approach, as describing trust as the ability to show vulnerability, knowing it's not going to be used against you.
Yeah.
And I think this is a big step in the right direction when you understand that trust is not about predictability. Because if I go back to an example of our team in Switzerland, people say we have 100% trust because we've worked with each other enough to know how certain people will react in certain situations. But this is not the basis of teamwork. And I thought it was really insightful for the book to point that out.
Yeah, no, it was really good. In terms of the vulnerability, when we had an event called Mökkipaja. It's a very common thing here in Pro Academia. And basically, we went out for 2 days and we did loads of team building exercises. And one of the exercises was actually to make yourself vulnerable. We told some deep stuff. And when I heard this in the book, I realized, oh, right, we actually did that. That was really good. And looking back on it now in hindsight, it was one of the best exercises I've ever done in any team.
Definitely.
Really opening up, telling your background, your story, why you're here, what you hope to achieve. I think it was really, really insightful. And it was a lot of deep stuff. You know, you never know what you're going to hear from anybody. But that's the thing. Putting yourself in a vulnerable position, I thought it laid that foundation for trust. At least that's what I would say. But yeah, like we never really had that in IB.
No.
IB1, at least in the first year. We got to know each other though. But I don't think if we had started from that same spot, that benchmark of we put ourselves in a vulnerable position, we tell about ourselves, where we're from and all this kind of deep stuff, we would be able to trust each other more in the sense of, you know, I can trust that person can do this. Oh yeah. But I think it also has the element of you can predict how somebody's gonna, you know, act in a certain situation. There's a little bit of that. But I think the book, how it illustrated this fact about the vulnerability thing and the trust that nobody's going to use that vulnerability against you, I think that was really interesting and really good.
True.
For sure.
Yeah, and this is something we try to do with this team in the check-in. When there is the sparks, do you have something to ask to the team? It shows you open you show your vulnerability. You say, okay, at this moment, I need the team to help me. So we can keep working on what we are doing actually. So keep the team happy, keeps everybody good vibes, etc. But actually, nobody has said at this moment, I'm feeling bad, and I really need you to be with me and help me to certain decisions.
That's true.
And when something like that will happen, when someone will really ask help, if the team is there, it means that this person can trust the team. But if the team is like, oh yeah, okay, he said that, but I don't listen and keep working what I'm doing, so it's never gonna happen again. So this will be the first moment when we will see if we can trust each other.
Yeah, I think we're still waiting on that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some issues, but they haven't been kind of brought to light to the whole team. Do you know what I mean? There's still some people want to grab onto that. It's my personal life. It's my thing.
It's been 4 weeks only for the moment, few weeks.
Yeah,
So it's
that's true. We've only known each other for 4 weeks, for goodness sake. But on the other hand, after Mökkipaja, I think we really grew as a team.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But anyway, going on to the second point of the book.
Yeah, the fear of conflict.
The fear of conflict. I think we actually talked about that quite a lot already here. But it's kind of, for at least, I think this might be quite, relative to the person. For instance, for me, I personally don't like conflict that much. And I know some people who don't like conflict that much, and that's why sometimes they might stay quiet during team meetings when there's some sort of a situation. You know, like giving criticism is very hard. Giving it back in a constructive way and in a neutral way so that the receiving end does not, you know, understand it like wrong. I think that's really, really hard. And for me, that's kind of one of the reasons why I personally don't like conflict, because that's where it mostly arises from. Coming from criticism, somebody understands it wrong, and then it's conflict, straight from the get-go.
Yeah.
But yeah, would you have any comments on that, on how the book illustrated the fear of conflict, Oona?
Well, I think in general, like when I think about, because I like reflect on myself as well, like not love conflicts, but I love going through conflicts. I've always wanting to go through conflicts.
Okay.
Well, if you think about my behavior, sometimes I always like if there's an issue, I always
Yeah,
go
she's
through.
an absolute nut to everybody.
Hey, that ain't true. Yeah, I think it said there that like seeking artificial harmony over constructive, passionate debate, and I think that was really well said. The fear of conflict is, I think, extremely high for Finnish people in general. Like a lot of people, but since like when you think about Finnish people, they don't like going through conflicts because a lot of Finnish persons have been raised by kind of not go through conflicts and kind of keeping in silence. And I don't know how it goes in Switzerland, but at least in here, in many families, it is like that. So unfortunately, that's how like a lot of companies maybe even like that because of the same reason.
It's like I can kind of relate to that in the sense of I've heard stories about how in Finnish families, the families don't talk about feelings or stuff like this, and that then results in those feelings getting bottled up, and then when there is conflict, it all explodes up in their face, and then it's so bad that people have so bad experiences with it that they just don't want it to happen ever again. So that's kind of I get where you're coming from, and I can understand what you're saying. Would you say that what's the conflict culture like in Switzerland?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that I think very few people, if anyone, likes conflict because conflict goes both ways. It's either presenting an idea and having feared of or being scared of it being rejected because that is conflict, or it's frontally, rejecting someone's idea, criticizing someone's idea. But I think that it is absolutely vital for an idea to be criticized because you might be very lucky and be right on the first go, but the principle of a team is being more than one individual, and that can only be achieved if you use the mind of everyone. And for this, everyone has to speak his mind, and they have to say what they truly think, not only what the people want to hear or what the people are comfortable in saying. So this is why the trust, I think, is the first base, because you need to trust everyone before you're truly able to confront an idea and say, this is not about you, this is about the idea.
Yeah.
I think this is the biggest challenge. And I think regardless of where we go, it's going to be very similar.
Yeah, being able to take a step back and look at the conflict as a source of become better is really the most important things. I really love this metaphor of the pink elephant. The pink elephant. In the middle of the room, we surrounded by the team. And when there is a conflict, when there's a problem, we give the problem to the pink elephant. And every time you give
the microphone.
and every time you give a conflict, the small elephant become bigger and bigger and a little bigger. And at a moment, it is so big that nobody can move. And at this time, it's too late to speak about the problems.
Yeah, sure.
So when there is conflict, speak about it right now. What you've done with the Avaus project, when you were in, where were you?
We were in North Macedonia.
North Macedonia, exactly, for 1 week. And they had a misunderstanding, or I don't know what, about point of communication. So there was a conflict about communication. What you've done once back in Finland, you make a Motorola, and you took this step back. You have a global vision of the problem and try to understand what was the problem and how to improve the problem next time. Yeah. And this is the way to see conflict. Every time there is a conflict, it means there is a problem. What's the problem? How can we solve the problem? And next time, I won't make the same problems.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there was an example in the book, actually, the Michelle, when she left, and then the people were there was a big elephant in the room, and eventually Catherine gave them a little bit of time, a break. That's how she worked, and then afterwards they discussed it. She said, how are your feelings when that she left? And then the people spoke up and said that, well, who's going to be the next one, we feel, and brought up their opinions. So I think that was the big elephant in the room, when Michelle left. So that was a good example in the book how they actually managed the situation, or how Catherine managed the situation with the team.
I think there's a lot to learn in the book, in the sense of, from Catherine, leadership and management. It was amazing, you know, how she, and it was just a kind of, it brought into a new light, at least to me, like emotional understanding and how important that is as like a leader. But also at the same time, it gave you insight into, well, what dysfunctions are in a team, how they become apparent, and how they can come up so naturally. You know, whenever you like read a theory or something like this, you read it and you think, oh, wow, okay, that kind of seems a bit complicated. How does that actually happen? But the book really illustrated it, in my opinion, really well, how something like this can come up from completely normal situations. And, you know, so something like sarcastic comments or whatever from my boy Martin, the British executive, you know, having sarcastic comments, for instance, even though it might be for humor, it does dampen and affect the mood of a meeting instantly. And that was really, really kind of, I don't know, it was really interesting to see and really interesting to hear about it.
The same as Michelle, like rolling her eyes. Like even though people don't necessarily like say anything about it, but when they actually bring it up, they're like, yeah, like I've actually felt this way, and it ruins the atmosphere of the room if someone starts rolling eyes over for your opinion. Yeah. And people start being just quiet.
And and I think this links nicely to the third dysfunction, which is like a lack of communication.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
When you have this attitude that avoids, you know, well, communication in general and conflict in particular, you know, sarcastic comment, passive aggressive body language. It really hampers the ability to discuss. It's, I think, point about the ability to communicate and the ability to have discussions. And conflict are very, very linked. Because, well, you can't have conflict if you don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And the thing about communication is, really, it's the difference between individuals and a team. It's how people work together. But it's also very hard to do on an individual level, because that requires people to not rely on themselves and like put the priority elsewhere, put the priority on the team rather than on your personal work, on your personal what's best for you. You have to think about what's best for the team.
Yeah,
for sure.
I totally agree with that. Like thinking about that, a lot of people might in a team consider only the individual goals rather than the team's ones, which is like, as the book mentioned, it is highly important to function as a team. I loved how Catherine started all the meetings saying that, like, even though we have the best executives, the best like knowledge and the best IT, we're still behind two of our competitors.
So
I think it was really interesting.
So it emphasizes the fact that even though you might be an expert in something, you need a team to work efficiently and to bring all those skills and expertise together. Luca, would you have any comment on the lack of communication? Do you have any experiences or any thoughts or any comments that's maybe happened within the last month of us being here and you observing us?
I think that one of the most problem we had in all our project was always about communication.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know why, but when we did Motorola too, it was always communication is the problem. And I really like this quote of Nate Turner, who said, "Good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity."
Okay, very good.
For me, it's all about that. The way you should choose to communicate will decide if the message you want to give will be good, accepted, or not.
Yeah.
And that's why we decided to not use WhatsApp, because, you know, saying something is WhatsApp, there's no emotions, it's fast, it's not really respectful. So many problems arise with this kind of communication. That's why when you have a problem, you really have to go in front of the person and have a dialogue. And start try to build something and to understand really the person, the vision of the person.
Yeah. Discussing face to face is so much more, I don't know, humane. I guess it's the word.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays we're so used to using social media, even Teams or Telegram or whatever these communication channels are. But I completely agree with you, because it's fast. It's got no emotion to it. Yeah. You know, like body language has such a big meaning or big like part in whatever you're communicating in.
Mm.
You know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can give an example from my old workplace.
Oh yeah.
That actually, like, we had a boss who was sending emails, and I discussed with him because we had to bring it up that his emails sound really aggressive, and he was
Right.
like, "Oh, actually, I was writing them really happy," you know. And he was
That's
saying like,
weird.
"I didn't like notice my aggressiveness in there. Like, I even wrote there this and this." So
Yeah.
the issue is that not necessarily like it's the way people read it, because people like are so different. I can read an email completely differently than Luca reads
of
an
course.
email.
Yeah,
like you can read the
exactly.
email saying like, "Oh, actually that's nice," and I can be like, "Oh, that's so rude," you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why, in my opinion, face-to-face conversations and dialogues are extremely important.
Or by phone.
Yeah.
If you can meet the person
Yeah.
directly, call her.
Yeah.
FaceTime or
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
something else, conference call, whatever. It's extremely important because it might like be misunderstood if you send
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
I mean, written communication loses, I think, something like 75 or 80% of the message. Because if you say someone you're really smart, or you're really smart,
Yeah.
doesn't mean the same thing.
Exactly.
But
Mm.
and when a written message, it means it's written the same way.
Yeah.
So the risk you're taking, I think, with written messages all the time is that depending on the mood of the person who receives the message, he's going to interpret the same message different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So it's like your example you were saying. So you're really smart. Just
Yeah.
like a sentence like that, somebody might read it and be like, "Oh, okay, that's nice." Other person might say, "Oh, that sounds really sarcastic," right? But if you write like, "Oh, you're really smart," right? Another person might be like, "Oh, is he fucking with me? Is he taking the piss?"
True.
Like, do you know what I mean? But it also, yeah, I 100% agree with you. It depends on the mood of the receiver.
Yeah.
Also, so
It's true.
it's very difficult. But yeah, we had a situation where we were doing a project for a company, but then we went away for about a week, and then we, unfortunately, most of us who was working on that project had to go on this excursion abroad. And so what then happened was we left, I think it was 1 or 2 people here in Pro Academy to work on the project by themselves.
Yeah.
The problem then was because we didn't have internet in North Macedonia, because different phone operators and whatnot, we couldn't communicate effectively. And even though it was by message, that's inefficient in itself. But the fact that we were out for like 4 hours at a time, 5 hours at a time. And then when we had this meeting at the very end, we discussed about, how it was unfortunate that we were away, but it also highlighted the fact that, communicating by messages can be quite, it can be very inefficient.
Yeah, definitely.
Very, I don't know, confusing. And we put one of our colleagues, unfortunately, in a bit of a situation where she was very, very stressed because there were the problems with the company and what we were doing with them. But we worked them out in the end, and it's all fine now. But yeah, the Motorola tool, we did that afterwards, and that was really good. I love that. Would you have any other tools you would recommend to use? Do you have some of your own? We have a few Luca theories, right, where he's created his own tool and he's pitched it to us. Been a brilliant coach, and we're just like, yeah, the Luca theory 2.0, 2.12, whatever. So would you have any other theories to kind of, let's say, improve communication or improve as a whole in a given situation?
I don't like to say you have to communicate like that, and this is the way, because each team is different, each team is complex. So, as I said this morning, you have to know what is your best way of communication.
Yeah, sure.
Discuss about it, experiment it, and find what you like and what you want to work with.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, no, I don't want to tell you use
That's
Teams.
a shame. I was looking
but
forward for another theory.
I want to tell you use Teams for 2 weeks, and then use a Motorola.
Yeah.
And ask you the question: is it what we need?
All right.
I think the single thing that improves the result the most is if you do a Motorola and you have the last squares, what are we gonna do? What are our actions? Is actually do them. I mean,
Yeah,
it seems
for
really
sure.
dumb, but
But there's a reason why you write them down.
yeah, there's a reason why you write them down, and it's so easy to make promise, but it's so
Yeah.
hard to keep them.
Yeah, for sure.
And Yeah, and I think that actually links with the other points of the book, the other dysfunctions, because I believe the fourth one is the
Avoidance of
the
accountability.
avoidance of accountability, which is
Yeah,
exactly this: taking promise, making promise, and
and
not being
delivering.
hold accountable for them. And that is the single thing that hampers progress the most in pretty much any given situation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You had quite interesting points in the book actually about holding for accountability. Oona, would you like to open up on that?
Yeah, so basically it is like interpersonal discomfort. I was talking about it, and the reason why it is quite hard is because everyone is equal in the team in a way, and everyone in the book was an executive or something like that. So basically they were considering everyone equal, so they didn't want to appoint when the other person is doing something wrong. Whereas like it's different when you're managing a person or being a leader, where they
Yeah,
all
for sure.
consider themselves as equals. And the same comes to us, like we consider all of us equals, I think.
Yeah,
So that's the way you don't necessarily want to point out when someone's doing wrong, because you think and you see that this person is in the same position as I am. So I think that was really well discussed in the book, and just about talking about the conflicts, how like you said, that Catherine like encourage people to go through conflicts in order to improve as a team. And then it was discussing also about the meetings, how they were not interesting at all because they were avoiding conflicts as well. It wasn't the reason necessarily why it wasn't interesting, but it was one part of it because it was avoiding conflicts, right?
yeah, yeah.
And and then it says in the book that every great movie starts with a conflict.
Yeah.
I think it said that, and every
That's
staff
100%
meeting will
true.
be loaded with conflicts, like what Catherine said, because that's how you make the meetings interesting and keep the people's attention. Because the main issue with the meetings was that they didn't get any results, and the second was that they were avoiding conflicts, so they didn't like get anything through. So it was boring for them, the whole team.
Yeah, it was interesting you actually mentioned that, the kind of the whole equal thing, because I started thinking about that when I heard it, and I thought, and that's actually really accurate, because like we in our team, all of us, we're all equals.
Yeah.
And so when there is this, every once in a while, if somebody criticizes another person, you can instantly feel the tension. Instantly. And it's, at least for me, I don't know about you all, if you can feel it. But like having because it's a flat organization, effectively. We don't have a hierarchy structure at all. Apart from, we have two business leaders, but that's still very flat. There's no set rule of thumb for, let's say, for communication. How does like messages go up and down the organization? How does feedback get given in the organization? And what's the responsibilities of each person? Everybody's the same. Everybody's studying. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have in our team currently.
Yeah. It's true. And like now that you said it, like I just started thinking the day that we did the innovation, and you have to bring out like because people's ideas and tell your opinions. So I could still feel like that some not get offended, but in the moment when it was their idea, it kind of felt that if you said a feedback, it was like kind of protecting it and not taking as a feedback necessarily.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Now that I started thinking about it.
Yeah, it wasn't like taken objectively.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? So they took it personal. Well, of course, I mean, if you pitch an idea, you put your heart and soul into it. You thought about it. Of course, you're going to be proud of it. And then somebody goes, "Oh yeah, no, this idea doesn't work." And you're
Like
"Oh,
your
well, that
idea."
sucks." Like you're going to take it to heart.
Your
And I think
hydro
that's
homie.
my hydro homie idea just got instantly shut down. So just to give some context, we today had an innovation day, and there's this meme called Hydro Homies, and it's just to remind people to drink water. And I wanted to capitalize on this idea and say we should make a water bottle out of it, like a collapsible 2-liter bottle that just said Hydro Homies on it. Pitched it to the team. They just shut it down. I was like, Alex, nah, this is a shit idea. Let's move on. Let's go. And I was like, oh okay. Well, I just thought of it.
Yeah. But do you guys have any insights like for in your team how this like avoidance of accountability happened? Like, can you tell in your experiences?
Well, I can tell you how it happens. I can't really tell you how to avoid it.
Yeah.
I can tell you, for example, I think it's linked to also the lack of communication, because one way to avoid it, and it's kind of an unfortunate way to avoid it, is to have really, really strict rules.
Mm-hmm.
Because if everything's written on paper for every situation ever, then of course, you can hold people accountable. This is like a police state.
Yeah.
But the example I had in mind is in our team back in Switzerland, we attributed roles to everyone in our group, in our team. And one group was supposed to do the marketing. So they were supposed to do some social media. And he knows where I'm going. Those two people posted, so they were accountable for the social media for the 5 months, I believe. And they posted a total of 4 posts on those 5 months.
4.
And to be honest, 3.
3 posts in 5 months.
3 in 5 months. And for them it was all right, because we never said exactly how much we wanted. So
But they're not false. That's right.
yeah, they're not. Yeah, like we've never written down exactly what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so they didn't do much, and they say, you didn't tell us, and which is true in a way, and it's interesting because the book talks about it.
Yeah.
It says how you should really have clear goals, and then have the entire team push behind it. And this was our mistake, was that we just thought, say go do marketing, and people would do marketing. No, you tell them to do something, and they don't do anything because they don't want to.
Yeah.
They don't have to, so you can't really force people in a flat organization.
Yeah, it's kind of so the delegation of tasks is quite important, and informing how we want it to be done. It kind of links back to the whole communication thing that we talked about earlier. The first or second dysfunction, sorry. Luca, would you have any insights to that?
Yeah, that's why we should use the SMART goals.
SMART goals.
In every situation, because if you think that what you want the others to do is what you're really gonna do, but you just think it, and you don't tell him, he's never gonna do.
Yeah, exactly. He's never gonna do what you wanted him to do.
Exactly. So you have each objective has to be written with specific, measurable,
attainable, realistic, and
timely.
Yeah, that was it.
Well done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
once it's written,
business.
once you know exactly what you have to do, how, when, and etc. and why, so it works. But this is once more about communication.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm a true believer into having responsible people having a lot of flexibility on how to do their task, but the challenge is really how to really define the goals, because the how people do them, then that's up to them, or up to the group task. The challenge for the group is really defining the task as clear as possible and defining them in a larger goal. So sort of in the book they give you an example of having 18 new customers.
Yeah, that was the goal.
So that means the IT department, they also take part in the customer acquisition, even though this is not their main role. And you have to give the IT department guidelines and goals on what to do to actually increase your customer duty, which was beyond the usual doing IT and being responsible for the technology of a group. But I also believe that you don't have to remove their autonomy, because otherwise then you're not a team, you're just someone giving order to other people.
And one tool they show in the book, and I really like, is the publication of goals and achievement. Once it's public, once everybody can see them, you become more responsible. And when I know that all the team see that I have to make 5 publications in this week, if I don't, I fail, and the team won't trust me anymore. So I think it's a boost that we can add, and we should have a space like we have here in Pro Academia, a really big Mauer, really big wall where we can write, and every team has this piece of wall. And we should maybe write there our goals and our weekly goals or
Yeah.
monthly goals, and everybody can see them.
That's actually a very good idea.
And I can already hear the comment typing saying that's just peer pressure with extra
Yeah.
steps. Well, yes, it is.
Yes,
but
it is.
works. So
But
Yeah.
it will give a boost
it's
of
for the
motivation, I
team.
think, because if
Yes.
you've got like the goals on the board, like you said, and the whole of Pro Academy can see them, you know, it's out there, it's open and out
Yeah.
there, and you've got an incentive to then do it because you've promised to everybody, including your own
Yeah.
team and including the whole Pro
And
Academy, to do
that
it.
is the fifth dysfunction of the team is the
Yeah.
inattention to result. And
Yeah.
so once you have this ability to show everyone to have peer pressure, and because I think everyone wants to succeed and everyone wants everyone to succeed, but for the team to succeed, it requires work and it requires effort. And one way to do it is to put pressure on people. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not magical, but that's
Yeah.
how it works.
And I think like in addition to results, it's again was talked about how the results should be the team's results and not necessarily only like individual ones.
Yeah,
Individual goals are
exactly.
important in your life, but then again, if you work as if you want to have a good team, then it's important to have those actually like team goals and like concentrating on those results rather than on your personal development only.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like for example, like I learned so much from this book. Only just I can reflect my own life, and I was having discussion with one of our team members who said like about own goals and stuff like that, and I just reminded that person by saying like just remember that at least when I read the book that the main focus should be on team results and then afterwards your own results, and that reflects also the thing that they were discussing in the end of the book, that the story, how you should have one main team
Yeah.
and the second one, because
Yeah,
they
I
were
like that.
concentrating on their own teams that they were leading and not the executive team. So that was the mislead that they had, and they were confused why should they concentrate as like number one team for the executive team.
Yeah, because they kept saying like, "Oh, but I built I've been working so hard to build my department." You know, it was the IT department. You know, it was the sales department. You know, they were saying, "Oh, like, oh, but I've worked so hard to build so much trust, and we've made so many incredible results." And that was that kind of that personal sense of achievement, and not the whole collective team.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really liked it when you were talking about, especially the first team. And when I heard that, and I thought, actually, yeah, that's actually a really good point. And
Yeah.
but I think for us, for instance, it might be a bit difficult to do. Do you know what I mean? Because we don't really we're a flat structure,
Yeah, it's a little bit different. But
so we are the first team
yeah,
in that sense.
of course, it is different. Did you want to say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you
No, I was
finish.
just gonna say about the examples of the book, like how I just wanted to give like an open discussion because it shocked me basically, like how it was surprising how, for example, JR left there after the first retreat.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa, wait,
it
what?
was really
Yeah.
unexpected, wasn't it?
Yeah, because
Yeah, it
first you
is.
thought, so just to explain a little bit, like Catherine said, that some people might leave and like there are many changes going to happen. And then like I personally thought it was going to be Nick who would leave maybe, or Martin
Nick?
actually. Martin,
Really?
yeah. Yeah, I just like, maybe I thought it myself, but then when it was JR, I was like, oh wow. And I didn't know definitely that Michelle was going to be the one who would eventually leave as well.
Mm.
In agreement, yeah.
But yeah, no, that was it illustrated the fact that how in a team you might have those bad apples. We have the joke going around that you have to
Yeah.
eliminate the bad apples. And that was just a perfect example of it.
Yeah. But I gotta say, this book was really eye-opening, at least for me, because I remember having this conversation back in Switzerland about who wants to put the team first, who wants to put the projects first,
Yeah.
and who wants to put, the individual first. Now, I remember being the only one saying, doesn't matter what, I'm like more important than the rest of the team. And I don't believe I was the only one thinking that, but I'm the only one who expressed it.
Oh.
And
Oh dear.
this book actually changed my mind, because when you realize that you can actually have true and good, results and goal in a team, and this actually allows you to have other people accountable
Mm-hmm.
to reach for this goal, then it is much more interesting than when you're in a dysfunctional team. When you see other people, like I was saying, for the marketing, not doing their fair share
Yeah.
and pretending they're doing it for the team, it's a lot harder to, involve yourself in teamwork. But when you create this team spirit that really has the attention to result as a focus, then you can really start to understand why you should really put yourself after the team. Because that way you can achieve goals which not only would you not have been able to achieve yourself, but which together also boosts the employability and the salary of everyone involved.
Yeah.
So you can achieve far more than individually.
Yeah.
I mean, each individual will actually achieve far more and will receive far more than if they all pulled the rope towards themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
May I ask did you respond to that, Luca?
No, I'm completely agree with what just Cyril said. I wrote this sentence they said in the book, on strong team, no one is happy until everyone is succeeding. And I'm completely agree with that. At the beginning, I was like maybe Cyril, but I didn't say it. Like, I want to succeed me. And once you understand that in the 21st century, with the artificial intelligence who's coming faster and faster, and maybe it's gonna. She already beat us. She's stronger than human. So we have to be human again. You have to be team. We have to work together. And with the collective intelligence and the collective work of team, we are much stronger and much more better. So
yeah, for sure.
It's all about team and common goals.
Yeah, and I think
you were saying?
No, just going to finish it by saying that I think when you reach the team goals, you're able to reach your own as well, because then you can, and you maybe better to do it that way. That the team can help you if you want to reach your own goals as well.
Yeah,
so I don't know,
sure.
it kind of goes hand in hand, I guess.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, that's
definitely.
what we've done during the Mukipaya when we were doing the vision and mission of the team. Everybody had to write which mission, a vision he wants to implement to the team, and then everybody has to vote if he was agree with this vision and mission or not. And if he wasn't agree, why? And try to find an alternative where both of the person are agree and can grow with this perspective. So it's very important to put every personality together, take care of everybody, but have a team personality if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We are going to be having an episode on Mökkipäivä actually, so look forward to that. Stay tuned. I just want to ask you, Luca. So, Cyril, you were mentioning that you were asked this question: what is more important to you, the individual, the team, or the projects? Did I get that right? Luca, what did you say?
Sorry, I don't really understand.
What did you say to that sentence? So when you were asked what is more important, the projects, the individual, or the team?
Of course, I said the project.
You said the project?
I said the team. There was a coach in the room. So. The team. Yeah, of
so
course.
Cyril was the only honest person.
I think he was the only one. Yeah.
How did people react when you said that? Like, did they?
They're used to me being the only one taking position in one particular subject. So they weren't too surprised.
Yeah. You're like, wow, well, what a selfish man. For
it's
real,
like, it's
we all selfish, so.
Yeah, it's true.
I actually have one question for all of us. In the book, one way to handle conflict, they say, you have to listen to everyone, take everyone's opinion into consideration, but then you have to take a choice that everyone can get behind, but not everyone will agree with.
Okay.
And in this book, they do this because they have a CEO that has the ability to, take decisions.
Yeah, sure.
It's not the case in every team. So how do you think, we handle this situation where, people are having strong disagreement, but we still have to take a decision?
That's a tough question. We've always been in a flat structure. Again, I keep referencing this all the time.
Yeah.
But because we're all equals, I think it's really tough in that sense to manage this situation because, well, like you said, when there's a CEO structure, there's a clear responsibility, clear delegation and tasks, and there's somebody who's actually making the final decision. I think it's a lot easier. I might be wrong, but in our case, I don't know how we've done it so far. We've just discussed things, and like Luca, you were saying about the mission and vision stuff. We just went through every single one of the statements, rated it, and then if somebody was at the polar opposites of the opinion of that statement, they came together and they found a middle ground. I think that's so far the best way I could see us actually managing that sort of a situation. But that's pretty much it. That would be my insight to Oona. What would you say?
Well, I'm thinking about the mökkipää as well, like the mission and vision, like have a in the middle ground. But then again, I'm just trying to remember how did they do it in the book, because they had the situation where there were disagreements and they used to just like leave it, like you said in your team, that let's postpone it. But I'm just trying to remember, like, how did they actually like implement this? Because there was this situation when they were having actually the meeting and they ended up in a conclusion in the end of the meeting. Do you guys remember what happened in there?
No.
This was again at like 12 o'clock at night for me when I was listening to this audiobook, so I don't really fully remember.
I don't really which meeting you're referring to.
Did you mean the very last meeting where they found out that somebody, was it Michelle who had left after the excursion thing, and then it was one of the final meetings where, was it, I can't remember his name, the previous CEO had then Jeff he decided to leave.
No, actually.
Do you mean that one?
No, I remember. No, he didn't leave. Jeff didn't leave. He just
he
wanted to have his position in like a little bit.
That was it. Yeah.
Back. But now I remember it was the one that deciding on the goal, right? So they ended up. How did they end up on the 18? So there was first this. I think it was Jan who said that she wants 30 or something, but people said it's too much, and then some people put too little on the goal. Yeah. So how did they actually end up on the 18? So it was on the middle ground, like we did in the mission and vision thing.
I think they started with a whole host of different way to measure success.
Mm-hmm.
They had to decide one. I think they all discussed each point to see which one was valid and which was not, and they decided that customer acquisition was the priority. Then to decide the number, I think they just, they took the lowest, they took the highest, and then they decide. I mean, the CEO decided it was.
That's 18. What I remember as well. Yeah. Like it was just Catherine who just went, just split it down the middle.
That's the thing. But they could discuss it, and then there was the other thing when Martin, like people were thinking that the engineers are wasting too much time or something, or too much money and effort are put on the engineer, and then they went with the middle ground, right? And that Martin has to communicate what the engineers are doing and stuff like that.
But if, for example, this is illustrates what I was saying. There's a moment when Martin complains about how important the technology is in the company, and how we shouldn't, lower the budget. Because even to increase customer acquisition, because it's so important, and he gets his voice heard, and the decision is still to lower his budget, and he understands why the reasoning behind it, but he still doesn't agree with it. I mean, the thing is, having this ability to, really intrigued by having this ability to, get behind a decision you're against too, because I think some people can do it sometimes, but you have the challenge for me in a big group, which is like flat, is how do you manage to continue keeping decision even if people are kind of against them, excluding, but still keep the motivation for debates, because the risk I see is that if people are just excluded from taking a decision, basically we're going that way and not that way, then they say, okay, so basically my opinion doesn't matter. I might as well shut up and not participate in the discussion anymore. It's really an open question I have, and I'm still thinking about it. And obviously we have the mission and vision, but we're going to have a real tough subject, which is going to be money.
Money. That's a dreaded discussion topic. It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough, but the thing is that I'm also thinking about like what Cyril said, and it made me really think. Thank you for the question. The thing is that I agree with that when it's not like if you don't agree 100%, if you agree like 70% and or 50, let's say, you might like lose the interest, and then you might like you're not concentrating on the conversation anymore. You're just kind of out of it, and you might like checking on your phone or something like that.
Or the laptop, Martin.
Yeah, and the laptop Martin thing, yeah, or rolling our eyes like Michelle did.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the book gave a straight answer to like how to have it in the team. Like for example, for us, a suggestion, because it didn't. They went always with the middle ground, I think.
They did. And I think, but the facilitator role that Catherine had, I think that played a massive part in it. Because when we did the Merkibuyer thing, which we're going to talk about in another episode, just emphasizing it again, when we discussed the middle ground, it took us a long time. And there was this one sentence about money. Oh my God, we were there for 2 hours, at least talking about this one subject, 1.5 to 2 hours, and it was really draining. So I don't know. It's a tough question when you think about it. How can we, as a team, who are all equals, come to the middle ground efficiently and effectively and quickly
Without losing interest.
Without losing interest. That's the thing.
That's a tough. What is your answer to this? I want to know. What are your thoughts?
Well, if I had an answer, I would have told you. But no, honestly, I don't know. But I just know that my experience in Switzerland is that there is an obsession with having everyone on the same board. So
Really?
having complete. How do you call this?
Like a unison.
Yeah, unison, or there's a specific word, but I'll remember it later.
Yeah.
And so unanimous.
Unanimous, that's the word. I was thinking.
So they always want a
unanimous.
unanimous vote. And I think because I'm regularly, the only one to cast a vote against it. So I
That's
really,
so true.
I really experienced the system from the other way about, like, sometimes I was ready to, accept it, but I'm still against it.
Yeah.
And, does it hurt more to being able to vote against a decision and still it being passed, or having, because what I ended up doing is saying yes, even though I thought no, because I wanted things to move along. And I think it's important to keep the debate going, and perhaps simply like a majority or a 60% majority, because I think majority, it's hard to say for very complex topic, not complex, but emotionally binding topic like money.
Yeah.
But for most of the time, I think like a 60% vote is good enough, because the majority are always shifting. So if you're in a minority once, you're going to be a majority another time, and so you keep the debate going and you keep the ball rolling. But I really don't have an answer for sensible question.
Should we actually
sensitive question?
Put this like as a question on LinkedIn or something? Like, how has other teams or
That's a very good
companies
idea,
Maybe we
done it?
I can share you a tool we used to do.
Oh,
and
yes,
we've
please.
done under
Yes,
Merki.
please.
I'm against this 60% to be agree, because it means that the 40% they won't be in. They will be frustrated and they won't be at 100%. And when it's gonna have a problem, they will be like, "We told you."
Yeah.
And this is so bad.
Just blaming, pointing the finger.
And I don't know if you remember, but during this Merki, what we've done is like, okay, who is for and who's against? The team who's for, go there, go on the right. The team against, go on the left. And then let's try to find with a new solution.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a sentence with money. Okay, come with another sentence, not using the word money, because that was the problem. Someone wanted to say money, the others doesn't want. So how can we substitute money by something else? And you have to come back and be able to propose something new.
Yeah.
If you not agree, you can't say you can't say I'm not agree. No, what can I add new to improve the situation? And and make it work.
Yeah.
And once everybody is agree on this final sentence, it's good. But try to always find by the double diamond. If it doesn't go, what can we think different and go again, etc.
Have a run. But then there is the small thing about that as well. Like, it's an awesome method, and I think it works really well. But then there's people who are extremely, like, how do you say, really confident with their decision, and they really want to have the money word in there.
They're really persistent.
And if the money word is taken out, then they might be like, what, like, I want really the money in there. And it's still not 100% that they agree with that. They might agree by the different sentence, but they might still think that I'm confident with my decision. So this is a really interesting topic, which is why exactly, like I was saying, that I want to kind of ask how other people have like pursued it.
Yeah,
I want to know.
To anybody who's listening, leave a comment down below. This is going on YouTube. We're also planning on putting this on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So if you have any questions, any queries, or any comments, please comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube.
Click the bell icon.
And click the bell icon for notifications. Humble branding, humble marketing.
But I think this really boils down to how do you think it's because anyway, if you're doing Luca's method, I think it's a very good method. And it has a very honorable goal. But the risk that I see is you are forcing people to remove things that might be important to them.
Yeah.
And so you might come up with a solution that instead of having like few people who are against it, you have everybody who's not really behind it.
For sure.
And I believe, and I think it depends from situation to situation. It depends for the organization, but the question behind it, is it better to have a solution that can get, everyone sort of agreeing on, or is it better to have a solution where you have a core of people who are truly ready to push, and the people that are against it, but they could express their opinion and they can work on it, knowing that if it fails, they were right all along.
Yeah.
I think this is a very interesting topic, and we can actually make a full episode out of this and discuss this. Different people, different members of the team, but we are unfortunately running out of time today. So just to give a rundown of what's actually happening with the podcast, I'm going to turn towards the camera now. So what's happening is we're planning on posting this podcast every week. We plan on recording an episode every Friday and have this like a weekly thing. We'll be having different people from our team as well as from Pro Academia. Hopefully we'll be having some interviews and whatnot with other people to talk about different kind of topics and different kind of themes. So the kind of series that we're going to make a book essay series and also an interesting topics kind of thing and a lighter thing. So we'll talk about more lighter things and general kind of business terms and whatnot and theories and whatnot. But yeah, so this is the first episode for the book essays. And we will be making an introductory episode to everybody explaining why we are doing this kind of a book essay thing. The basis is we have to read a book every 2 weeks, and then we have to either do a podcast, an essay, or a blog post about it. So we opted to do a podcast.
Yes.
So the book essays, they will probably be a bit rarer, but the other general topics, they will be posted every single week. Yeah. So I think we are pretty done for the day. So what do you guys think? What did you guys think about the book? How do you guys feel about after reading the book? Just as a quick wrap-up summary. Luca, what would you say? Would you recommend this book?
Absolutely, yes. I would recommend this book before you start working in a team, and maybe once you're practicing working in a team, listen it again, because there is many truths and many good tools. So I will recommend it at 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cyril, what would you say?
Great book. Listen to it. It's free. I'm not sure this is legal, but it's free on YouTube. And I'm going to say, I think the book really offers full potential if you're already been working on a team for a while, but I think you can start with it, no problem, and read it again after a few years.
Yeah, I have to agree with these guys. I think it's good to maybe read it before you start working in a team and like in middle and after, so you can always like reflect like when you read it after, or like when you're working in a team, then you can reflect your behavior or the team's behavior and make it better. And if you read it before, you already know like what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
But then when you read after, you can like kind of revise like what did I do wrong, and then that's the best way of learning, at least for me, reflecting. What do you think?
Me personally, I think this was a fantastic book. It really opened up my insights to team working. Would highly recommend it to anybody who's working in a team, has worked in a team, or is going to work in a team. Like even for us, this was really, I got some new knowledge out of this, like 100%. Even though I've been working in a team with you guys for 1.5 years, unfortunately, 1.5 years.
Come on, you have loved it.
Yeah, it's been great. But yeah, I would wholeheartedly recommend this to anybody who's actually been in a team, is going to be, or is currently in a team. So I would recommend, if any IB first years are actually listening to this, looking at you guys, really listen to this book. It's really good. Really, really good.
Yeah, definitely. And not only working as a team, just in a normal, like just in, like if you're working for yourself as a freelancer, even like it's not only about teamwork, it's about self-development as well, in my opinion. It's everything you can listen to, like in any situation in your life. It's a really amazing book.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, anyway, thank you very much, guys. So once again, this has been Luca, Cyril, and Oona, Ozia, who has been talking here with me, my lovely co-host. And we just want to say thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be having weekly content. And also give us a comment, like, or a rating on iTunes or Spotify. So yeah, that's about it for this time.
For hosting this podcast. It was
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. All right. Anyways, we will see all of you, hopefully, in the very near future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for listening to it again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.